What? Kill someone?
Shit.
You see,
On the screen on that thing, am I in the frame mostly?
you are mostly in the frame, yeah.
Anyone who checks their email, stand on the chair and sing a song.
Okay.
Does the innovation have to be technical? Can it be a social innovation? Can it be a management innovation? Can it be a design innovation?
Very much all of those, or any of those. In fact, I would say possibly technical innovation would be maybe less likely than the others, because
The major
really,
companies are, that has just, this niche has not the money or has not enough purchasing power or is not big enough to actually mean anything to the big players. That's why that's the leaner version really. I think Liam mentioned it last.
I pretty much agree with you, Isabel.
First question, what did you contribute?
It's hard to sum up, but
That's a very interesting question actually, because I honestly don't know what I contributed.
With ideas and
So we could technically go, say, Thursday evening and come back Monday evening and have a long weekend there as well.
Just wing it, man, wing it. Just wing it.
I'll just throw feces at a wall like a monkey.
was trying to develop ideas further that other people had, and that's what I usually try to do.
Yeah, I can't think of my own contribution, to be honest.
programming me.
I was the technical person.
I was trying to be critical throughout, so if I thought there was a problem with any particular aspect, or I didn't understand something, trying to let the rest of the group know.
It all started when I met Gordon. And it's just been a nightmare!
I was taking the business sections because that's what I'm most familiar with, and I thought it would be the most efficient if I do that.
With the dark side, that's what I contributed. Apart from the chores of creating stuff, which I'm doing, which everyone is doing.
I'm doing all the work that you guys don't want to.
Initially threw the idea of Bitcoin in there, which people started to run with.
Did a lot of the writing for the report, did a lot of the drafting, kind of the analytical side. I think I have a lot of ideas and a lot of frameworks to work from, things that will work, that will not work. I've had a philosophy background, so I contributed sort of on the big cloudy issues there. I don't know if I produced more cloud or people see through it, but yeah. I made a few other artifacts, like to spur conversation, to spur discussions. I think I did a lot of the agenda writing, and I did a lot of the kind of writing notes up on the board and stuff for the, or on the project side, because Drove was doing the process side. I guess something I've contributed a lot in the past, which is I'm a kind of middleman myself. And it's weird how that's evolved actually, because I think I've been helping probably yourself and Isabel, because you've got different ideas on stuff, and I've been trying to pull those ideas into one centre, synergise really good ideas from people and get past frustrations, which is really hard. It's been really hard. So I guess that's some of the things I've tried to contribute.
Yeah, I was doing the business plan. I was looking at marketing. I was looking at target markets, bit of strategy, expansion. In all the other sections that are not so business relevant, I was trying to bring the business element in as well, just to have a coherent story.
Critical thinking maybe, as in, because I was mostly critical of ideas rather than coming up with ideas. I think I should have, in hindsight, contributed more towards ideation, but that's my own subjective perspective.
More specifically, I've done the odd little task here and there, some particular bit of research is needed doing, or a bit of writing needed doing, or little things like that. But yeah, in terms of the broader project, mainly just trying to be critical.
During meetings, I was usually quite quiet. Interface design and video, contemplated while everyone else fought over tacking bonds and agenda points and the third agenda, the fourth agenda. But all my ideas were mainly technical, which I think scared quite a few people. Quiet commentator with a technical background who can cause thought-provoking change.
Okay, what did the others do?
Nothing.
Daniel is the first person who actually thought out of the box the first time around, because we were pretty much going around in circles when he introduced something as known as bitcoins none of us knew about. That's the first time someone actually thought out of the box. That has shaped what we're doing now. He might have stayed silent mostly, but then that's his personality. He speaks in the end and that changes things, but he's challenged some ideas and he's come up with really strong points.
Drove, I thought, he was calm. He managed to maintain a put together sort of appearance. And Drove made sure that all the process stuff was logged and always worked. Isabel, she did make sure that we stick on time and did our process stuff. Management background, quite agitated at certain points if things weren't going to plan or we weren't utilising time or things weren't getting done.
Well, I think as a group, everybody had different strengths, quite a diverse background. Initially I thought this is really great because we can complement each other, but turned out to be a bit of a problem because we talked about the same thing in a different way. So maybe we weren't talking about the same thing. In that I thought everybody did contribute, but I cannot really judge how much they contributed because I don't know their areas, if you know what I mean. It's a bit difficult for me to quantify whatever they did because I know what is usually done in a management project, but I don't know how much effort goes into a technical project usually, so I don't know if what Dan did is efficient or not, because I don't know. I think everybody did contribute, but I cannot judge the quality of the output. To be honest, in my opinion, I think that a lot of stuff that was done was not the same quality as I would usually expect in a management project, but then again, that might be more because it's conceptual and not an actual thing that we have to produce. It's more, so for me, I struggled with that, because the quality I usually expect from my team members, at least in my judgment, is better.
Yeah, everyone's contributed in different ways. I think Isabella's come at it from a business background with quite a bit of rigour and on the organisational side of it, timekeeping, project management kind of thing. I think that's been good. You know, occasionally that's caused tension sometimes because other people have a more relaxed way of working, so it's good to have that frame. But I think yourself, Joe, I think you've contributed in 2 or 3 ways. There's creatively, coming up with ideas. There were ideas pathways we were going down, but I think when we were away from meetings, you stepped back and tried to deconstruct them a bit. So you had, in what way, it's quite a disruptive kind of contribution, like around Bitcoin, around the clock cycles, probably also around some of the latest ideas we had, the ultrafact stuff. But I think overall it's led us down a better pathway. Definitely today, like tightening the focus, the research questions, the implementation questions has really helped a lot. But in a way, that's quite an area of friction that you've walked into there. And I don't know if it's your normal style, but it's maybe a place you inhabit. I don't know.
Collectively, we've done the project as a group. Isabel gave a very strong take from her perspective on kind of how this was relevant to businesses and how she saw it to be relevant. Dan was very quiet throughout a lot of it, but some of the points he mentioned when he did speak were invaluable. Some of it was pointing out technical flaws when we were looking at quite technical things, but much more general things. Even if we were having a conversation that didn't seem to make much sense, sometimes Dan would chirp up and go, I think you're not making any sense, and his timing was very, very valuable.
Joe, he's just a genuinely nice guy. he contributed by being realistic with certain ideas, such as the Bitcoin one, bringing people back to earth with stuff. But sometimes that could agitate other people who are already along that path and seeing an end point.
Joe, for example, you've done a lot of background research and you've come up with all these reflections on whether this thing will work or not, calculating something down to the penny. Even that's a big task. Paul, in my opinion, he's the glue, bind people together in some way and avoid certain situations of conflict. I personally saw 1 or 2 occasions where I thought there might be conflict, but then he's somehow managed to balance that. And of course, he's done so much work on the project report and such as
Druv, like all of us, we've had a few things that have pulled us away from the project. So I think Druv's been pulled away. He had a burglary, had a couple of other issues. He's been travelling from Manchester. He's holding down a job as well. It's been probably very difficult for him. Dhruv has pretty much taken the process side of things on himself in the last few weeks, especially around the cartoon. I still think there's a process document that's needed. I think the cartoon is good as a narrative, and it's a novel way of showing the process, but I think it's missed 90% of the interesting stuff there. But in the end, we've got so much data on process, whether it's been photographs of whiteboards, or write-ups and notes, pictures of people. You'd need another month to code that to really come out with interesting stuff, so I don't think that's feasible in the time we've got. Daniel is very much, I'm not sure he has a tension with taking the IT role, but he's quite good at it. He also speaks very authoritatively about back-end IT stuff, how the software application would appear, how it would function. I know he's been doing, the last 2-3 weeks, he's been doing a lot of work on the visualizations of that. And I think he's come out with some really key comments at different stages. Talk about Bitcoin, and he kind of changed the direction of the project once or twice. I do think he's drifted out of some of the more tension-like meetings, so I'm not sure if he's comfortable with that or not, but sometimes when a deep conversation was going on, he kind of phased out. Sometimes I felt like we needed him in there, because sometimes he helps push us forward.
Isabel, I think she's the one who's organized things really well. It's not easy if you come up with a business plan, especially if you're from someone from a business background, then next day you come to the meeting and someone tells you, oh, we're not doing this idea anymore. You scrap that, move on, create a new business plan. The week after, it gets scrapped again. So I think she's managed to cope up with that pretty well, even though she's had moments of frustration with our styles of work. But then that's a learning exercise.
Dhruv, again, good, just generally critiquing ideas, making sure they were quite watertight. Again, it was kind of bringing expertise from his area, which a lot of anthropology references he brought up. And Paul was very good on the creative, coming up with ideas side. Sometimes a little bit too good and going off, as my boss used to say, off-piste. Yeah, he was very good at coming up with ideas, going off on tangents, had great general knowledge of theory and philosophy, which was really, really useful to have. Most importantly, Paul was a great mediator and helped us stay together as a group, and probably, mediated the odd argument.
Paul, I don't know. He came up with more social ideas, more down to earth, which weren't as technical. I don't know, his ideas, I think, would ricochet heavily in the direction of loads of just gobbledygook was being said.
What could the others have done better?
And I've never seen a bunch of 15 adults argue for 3 hours over team allocations. I think that could have been dealt with in a much more professional way, but that was outside the team.
Can we edit this? Well, in terms of working together, I think we had issues that I should have addressed earlier, because everybody has a different working style and different work ethics, and I didn't communicate it because I didn't want to be the one that is the pushy one, and I didn't want to be the one that enforces stuff and gets people to do stuff when they don't want to do it, and just because it's not a nice position to be in. And that's why I really got upset a lot, and I didn't communicate it, because it's not how I work.
I actually enjoyed working in this group, to be honest, because as in conflicts arise regardless of your style of work, your work ethic or anything, but people have been mature, they've dealt with pressure. There are kind of things that we should have done better. For example, had we created this blog called Damned Video, we started creating this from day one. So I think we focused on writing stuff, but we could have focused on creating stuff from day one as well, and that would have given us more time now to reflect and develop the actual thing more. Now it's a learning exercise. Now if someone asks me that there is a deliverable called process documentation, because the video I'm creating right now, that doesn't have reflective pieces in it, right? So had we started creating a proper deliverable from day 1, day 2, day 3, every single day, then today or in the last few weeks we would have refined this video that we are creating right now much better. But yeah, it's a learning exercise for future.
For me, efficiency is one of the main things I try to achieve in a group work, so I wouldn't go on a break unless the work is finished, and that for me created a lot of frustration. Obviously in our group there's a lot of different work ethics and work styles that they might need that, but it's just not how I've experienced it before, and it's not what I'm used to. I think I should have communicated how I usually work, and we should have compromised. My part was I should have communicated my issues with it. I cannot really blame the others because we didn't even discuss this until last week. What could they have done better? They should have, in my opinion, put more effort into it, produced maybe a more substantial piece of work, maybe more backup, more proof, less conceptual. Again, that's my background and maybe it's not needed in this project. I think I should have communicated my issues and my concerns, and then we could have compromised. We might not have found a compromise, but at least I could have initiated a discussion about compromising. So, yeah.
The personalities, I think, are very different. But people have different expectations. People definitely had different expectations and stuff. My previous experience in group work is there's a leader, you have deliverables every 2 weeks which you have to stick to, you can't go back on yourself, whereas this, it was just free for all, and there was no structure, and because no one enforced that structure external to the project, it was hard to maintain a progression, if that makes sense. And even if there was one internally applied, that wouldn't have, I think, been maintained due to there not being one externally.
Well, a few points probably, as we've all had, where you feel frustrations. I think one of the big ones is that we all feel to different levels that other people are not participating as we would like them to. And I think that's a key issue in any kind of work like this. But it might be magnified in a student project, because in work, your boss tells you to get on and do it. So you can't worry about Paul isn't pulling his weight. And I think that's caused tensions in the group. At the beginning we had a rule saying, no, if you had any worries, tell each other. I don't think that's worked. I don't think there's been any big fights. There were one or two, episodes where people got upset, and it's been okay overall for that. I know it's hard to handle those kind of tensions in an intense project when you've got no authority around it.
I think the others all excelled at themselves, at being themselves. I think the others all excelled at being themselves. They couldn't have done anything better.
What was the biggest challenge?
Just communication.
People can disappear for a day or a week or a month, and then the project reconvenes and there's meetings and that, whereas this global challenge has been very intense. So there's perhaps 1 6-hour meeting every week, and then there's probably there's other relationships bouncing around that through the week, because we all see each other at lectures, and then there's emails going back and forth, there's this podio, so it's been very intense around that. I don't know, it's probably made our reactions more intense as well. Just
dealing with people's reactions to stuff, people's different backgrounds, not being technical, being design, being philosophy, and me coming over my prejudgments of people.
Because I thought everyone was happy, yay, but no. That was the biggest challenge, but I think these things are hard to see unless someone is vocal. So it wasn't just that day, something had been happening in the background which I just missed. I was a bit disturbed really with that myself. I was like, wow, how did that happen? Yeah.
Finding a conceptual side, finding an idea, and the other one was working together and I think not working together so much, but more producing something. I think it's a major challenge because we have so many different work ethics and styles, and the challenge of finding an idea is always an issue.
Just communication, communicating with each other what we thought about our own ideas, really. Communicating how to form a strategy about progressing them.
Oh, there's my parking fine, start paying that.
Have you enjoyed this process?
Yeah.
I'll give it 70%.
I've enjoyed probably half of it and had the opposite emotion to enjoyment for the other half.
Sometimes not. I think 5 people in a group was too many, because I feel like either I'm involved in it and I'm enjoying it, or someone else takes over and it goes down a different path, and then other people like myself sit on the sideline because I wasn't too sure what was going on. And like the document writing today, which has been going on, I've just sat on the sideline and done my video and stuff. And when I went for lunch and came back, and I felt like the whole concept had changed yet again in the space of an hour, I sat on the sideline because I saw 4 people working on it, and I knew saying something would throw them off again, something that could have an outcome.
Yeah, I did initially, because I liked everybody in the group, I still do. I thought it was an interesting challenge, something I hadn't done before. interesting project. Made me think outside of the box, and I learned about areas I hadn't thought about before. Like I didn't know what clock cycles were, for example. So I learned and challenged me in different ways. Yeah.
We love you, Leon. We do.
Will you miss working on Global Challenge?
No. That's simple.
No.
Maybe.
No.
Is that it?
Yes.
Should I say why?
No.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
Just because group works are always stressful. Very stressful.
Probably, yeah, in a way. Yeah. If you can open yourself to thinking differently, whether you carry on with thinking in those different ways in future or you just let it open your frame a bit, yeah, I would miss it in that sense, yeah.
Have you found it difficult?
Yes, I think that the task at hand and what's been asked of us in the project is virtually impossible. But coming to terms with the fact it's virtually impossible makes it quite a lot easier to kind of deal with. So in that sense, it's not difficult. However, what I really have found difficult is the communication aspect. And I would have liked to have been able to be the person making sure that everybody was happy, knew what they needed to do, and were all working for a common goal. I couldn't do that because it was too difficult.
The nature of the project is quite simple, and with the right people it could be very quickly implemented and designed. With the different personalities and backgrounds, that's made it the challenging part. The initial idea creation, all of that was the challenging stuff, dealing with all the, I don't know. If it was just that project, it very simply done. Very quickly you could get that done, but dealing with people's different backgrounds, to come up with that idea, to come up with the other ideas, to then manage those ideas, manage people's expectations and understandings from very different viewpoints, that's the challenging part.
Definitely not difficult. I've worked on difficult projects before. It was nowhere near that. I think people were flexible, most of them anyway, so yeah, it was okay.
So you're saying a wicked problem isn't difficult?
No, that's not what I'm saying. You know, when you know that you're not going to find a solution to a wicked problem in 8 days, as in if you have that at the back of your head, then I think you can deal with the pressure. As in if you are genuinely trying to make difference, then maybe, I don't know, I've never worked on the wicked problems before.
Have you found it difficult?
Working on the Global Challenge. Yeah. Found it very difficult because of the different work ethics.
It was difficult, yeah. I wouldn't say it's the most difficult project I've ever worked on. There have been ones with higher impact for me in the past. But again, the intensity, the full-onness of it over an 8-week period, 1 day a week, plus all the stuff around it, by the, what do they call it in the research, by the water cooler kind of stuff, where people leave the session and they talk around it. That's been very full-on, for sure. What was your question again, the last question?
What have you learned?
It's like any group project. You learn to hate group projects.
I've learned a lot of specifics about various technologic things, Bitcoin, grid computing.
Now that boundary object can be seen as a big negative and by some people in some ways with certain backgrounds, and a big positive by other people. So then what do you do with that boundary? How do you pull it one way or the other? It's been trying to make some of those objects and concepts work for everyone, and in the end you can't do that, but we've done okay. I think we've done okay in the end. I've learned a lot through that, and so have other people.
That I should communicate my concerns when I have them, and I shouldn't hold them back, and that I can learn from other disciplines. I knew that before, but now it's proof.
How to work with people from different backgrounds and how to appreciate their input. It's one of those hard things. It's a wicked problem. I don't know, you take things less seriously. Expect the time you think you could do this and you probably times it by 10, then add a few more days, and then add a few coffee cups in. It's one of those weird things you learn to get on with the people, but by getting on with them, I found myself just becoming more quiet, because I vaguely understood what they were doing, and they seemed to know what they were doing, so I just learned to be quiet. I know me personally, I should have got more involved and do stuff.
In the broader sense, I've learned a great deal about the 4 other people in the group. I already knew this. I knew that working in groups was difficult, but it's given me a new take on it. Never worked in a group with 4 people that were quite as clever as those 4 people. So it's taught me something about that particular challenge.
People management, or that's something I've learned, or even aligning expectations. So maybe there was, on the first day we had, there are other things, certain rules of the team saying if anyone is disturbed, please raise your hand up. That never happened, so maybe that I might want to think about to address these issues, because if I've not been able to see it now, I'm not entirely sure if I see these things coming in future, so I'd rather want to sit and work, come up with strategies, try something else next time.
We've all identified we have different working styles. I think that was mentioned in the trip to Brentwood and the orientation we got, but it's not just different working styles, it's different discourses.
When were you happiest?
When I thought we were going to be doing something quite innovative with Bitcoin. Everyone was behind it at that point. Everyone had a vague to firm understanding about, at that one point, what we could do with it. And that was quite a pleasing moment, even though some had their reservations, were generally behind it and can see an end goal.
The points at which I was happiest were when I discovered fundamental flaws in some of the ideas we discarded, moments of clarity. And although they was very frustrating at the same time, I was quite happy at those points. Equally, I was very happy when we arrived a couple of weeks ago at the final idea that will be our final project. It was nice to have that too.
Bitcoin was one bit. I do think the Ultrafact thing at the end, but the actual idea itself, I will be surprised if I work with anyone over the next 4 years and we come up with a more appealing idea that would warrant us spending time to make it real. We've hit the goal very early, and there's some fantastic stuff in that idea. And I think it's quite a unique angle on altruism. The idea itself is, I think, it's just something magical I'm taking out of this project at the end of the day. If in 4 years' time I can think back and think, wow, how did we even come up with that idea? It seems so normal a few weeks later, but it's a great idea that if it was true, it could lead to a lot of potential good. Probably get diluted by policy and bureaucracy if you ever did implement it, but as a little shining idea, it's nice.
The first day, I was really, really confident that this is a good team. I still am, I'm not saying, but the first day I was really, really happy. And I think I'll be happiest when I submit.
Probably when we found the final idea. And then again when we submitted.
Sure.
When I'm going to be very, very happy.
Okay.
But in between, not so happy.
Okay.
And when were you most stressed?
I'm feeling the stress in the last few days, really, but I think that's normal, and that's to do with, time commitments, other things, and so at the moment I'm the most stressed I've been so far. Was that good enough?
When we scrapped Bitcoin completely, came up with a brand new system, moved rooms, and that appeared to again change the whole system, and not fully understanding what was innovative about it and what was different about it. To me, it still appears like it's just a glorified Craigslist.
Week 8 it was, because after the presentations I saw how the girls worked together. Like, they took off right away, they went back to their room and they started working again, and we didn't, and that frustrated me so much. I just couldn't take it.
A difficult bit was the other week when one of the group members got upset, and it was after the presentations. Felt really good, but then one of our team members felt very stressed after the presentations because they thought that the other projects were ahead of us and it was like competitive or something, and I didn't feel that at all. So I found that tricky to try and make that person feel better and carry on with the project without getting down about it. So that was probably the worst. That was probably one of the worst times.
I've been most stressed at the various points in the process when where I've realised what I'm saying has been difficult for other people to handle and having an impact on how they're feeling. And right now it's quite stressful at the end, getting everything together, making sure it's all finished. But I'm confident. I'm sure we'll do it, and whatever we do, we've done.
And finally, what is your favourite Cheeky Girls album?
Cheeky, cheeky, cheeky.
Oh, excellent.
This way. I have to say that just from a design process point of view, this is absolutely fascinating and completely frustrating and knackering all in one fell swoop. Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm really, really digging it.
I would agree with that. Joe, stop videoing this, you cheeky bugger.